What medical condition do you have that you thought was absolutely normal? Eosinophilic esophagitis. I would get stuff stuck in my throat all the time, and I just figured, throats are narrow, take smaller bites. Turns out, no. My esophagus is much narrower than normal, and most people don't choke every time they eat. When I said choke, I didn't mean it in the normal sense of the word, since food is not getting stuck in my airway. It is getting stuck in my esophagus. I can still breathe when this happens. I just figured choke was a more recognizable word than impaction or blockage. And no, I am not the guy who gave myself the Heimlich twice, since the food is not stuck in the airway, and therefore the Heimlich would be much worse than useless. I thought your throat, mouth, and lips were supposed to hurt after eating fruits like apples and pears. Nope, just allergic. This is how I felt about cookies with tree nuts in them. I just thought the nuts would scratch your throat too much to make it itchy. Didn't understand why people love tree nuts so much. If you also have seasonal allergies, I would highly recommend going to an allergist. In my case, I had bad seasonal allergies, and most fruits, vegetables, and nuts would make my throat really itchy for an hour or two. Apparently my body thought something in the food looked like the seasonal stuff I'm allergic to. Getting allergy shots completely cured both my seasonal allergies and all my food allergies that I've tested so far. I hear it is less common to cure the food allergy as opposed to seasonal allergies though, so don't get your hopes up just yet. However, it worked for me and was the biggest upgrade to my life I've ever gotten. Feel free to PM me if you want more info. My sense of smell is rated 1 out of 5. 5 being normal. I always thought everyone was exaggerating the smells of flowers or stinky messes. And I feel like mine is a 6+ out of 5 then. I was always the family dog in terms of finding the source of smells, and some smells actually irritate me, from dry throat to bad headache. I have an insanely sensitive sense of smell, so I know where you're coming from. Lots of things give me headaches. It was dialed up to 11 when I was pregnant. Cataplexy. It's the hallmark symptom of narcolepsy. But most people don't know it actually has a large range of presentations. I remember talking about a YouTube video to my friend and describing it as one of those super funny ones that make your face stop working. Apparently, I didn't realize it wasn't normal to have your face droop and your head become too heavy to hold up if you laugh too hard. After being diagnosed with narcolepsy, I began to notice a few other things. Constantly dropping things wasn't just me being clumsy. Going completely limp on amusement park rides and slurring my words whenever I laughed wasn't normal either. TLDR? I turn into human jello every time I laugh or get excited about something, and thought it was completely normal. I am so sorry for laughing, but the way you worded this was humorous and made the situation much more lighthearted. I'm really happy you got answers, and I hope things have gotten better. No need to be sorry. I'm glad I was able to make you laugh. There's nothing wrong with bringing a bit of sunshine into the world. I'm glad I got answers as well. Luckily, cataplexy is, for me, a minor annoyance at most, and while it may never get better, it's not very hard to deal with now. I have always felt cold. Not normal, oh, it's cold out cold, but holy crap, I am freezing cold. I thought some people just handled the cold better than others. Turns out it is one of the symptoms of severe anemia. Thanks to iron infusions every 3 months, I still feel cold, but not the I think I may be freezing to death cold. Oh, I should probably have a chat with my doctor. Please do. Feeling cold isn't normal. Lupus. My doctor always told me that the constant pain and fatigue were just part of growing up. Then they said the pain in my chest and shortness of breath was anxiety, and I was just fishing for attention. Surprise! I was short of breath because lupus made the lining of my lungs swell and made my heart enlarge when I was having an outbreak. 10 years later, it's finally under control. Thanks to one doctor who told me being tired and in pain every minute of every day was not normal. It's never lupus. After 4 biopsies and several trips to the Mayo Clinic in the last 3 months for suspected lymphoma, it is actually lupus. Should have gone to Dr. House first. I have prosopagnosia. I don't easily recognize people by looking at their faces. I figure out who you are by your profile, hairstyle, voice, walk, and sometimes just guessing from context or what you're talking about. For half my life, I had no idea I wasn't normal. You know the cop shows on TV where they walk into a bar and show a photo to the bartender? Has this guy been in here this week? I remember seeing that as a kid and thinking it was totally ridiculous. No frickin' way could anyone recognize someone they don't know from a picture. My husband and I were at Walmart, and a man approached asking how I'm doing, etc. I did my usual make small talk while figuring out who this is thing, but no joy. I didn't know who he was. After he walked away, I asked my husband, I wonder who that was. My husband said, that was the guy you were dating when I met you. Oh, guess he wasn't too special, huh? Now that I've been diagnosed, everything makes a lot more sense. I have this. It makes watching movies really hard because I don't know who anyone is. By the time I can memorize some mannerisms to remember them by, the movie is over. I've had coworkers who I've known for years trying to talk to me in stores, and I have no idea who they are when they are dressed differently from their work clothes. Yep, I hate it when several of the main characters in a movie all have the same hair. It seems so obvious to me that nobody will be able to tell them apart that I have to remind myself that I'm the one with the problem, not Hollywood. I thought the dryness of my eyes was really normal until I found out that part of the reason they get dry so easily is that they don't close all the way. That must have been an eye-opening experience. I'll show myself out. Tinnitus, ringing in the ears. When I was retiring from the military, the VA doc asked me if I had ringing in my ears. I said all the time, but I don't think it's more than anybody else. He gave me a weird look and said ringing in the ears is not normal. I thought it was because most people I know have ringing in their ears. I can't imagine not having tinnitus. Do people without it literally hear nothing when it's quiet? I can't wrap my head around not hearing a ring. IBS. I thought everybody had diarrhea every day. Same. Imagine how shocked I was when I found out other people don't constantly switch back and forth between constipation and diarrhea. Wild. One testicle. I had no clue it wasn't normal growing up. Undescended as a child, then it herniated and died. My body absorbed it, apparently. Didn't find out it wasn't normal until I was getting a physical, edit, by a doctor who tried to find it but couldn't, in the 6th grade. Just make sure you always mention it in your past medical history when visiting doctors, because there is an increased risk of testicular cancer later in life with this condition. Cryptorchidism. Feeling like a stranger in my body, like I was pushed way back within my own head and perceiving the world as if I was looking through a cinema screen, with the deep conviction that the world around me was fictional. Happened quite a lot, but I figured it was normal. It wasn't. It's schizophrenia. I get that occasionally, thankfully not a lot. That's depersonalization episodes. If you feel your own perception is foreign and removed from yourself, it can be nothing, but if you do get them, maybe seeing doctors about it is the wisest thing to do. I have always had ringing in my ears for as long as I remember. I thought everybody experienced it. I'd heard of tinnitus plenty of times, but for some reason, it was a while until the penny dropped. I've never heard complete silence because of the noise. I always thought silence was the ringing in my ears. Does yours get louder the quieter the background sounds are? I wouldn't say louder, but rather more obvious. I can ignore the ringing if I'm doing something like watching TV or talking to somebody, but when there's little to no sound, it becomes much more obvious to me. When I'm lying in bed, it seems very loud and often keeps me awake, but I'm pretty sure it's the same volume at all times. I just notice it less during the day because there's usually a lot more going on around me. I have ventricular tachycardia. Basically, my heart has an extra spark plug, and without medication, it beats about twice as fast as it should. I first noticed it in high school and thought, I'm not sure if my heart should be beating this fast, but I was an idiot and did nothing about it. I didn't feel any symptoms, so I thought I was fine. Then one day I felt really short of breath going up a flight of stairs and almost passed out, so my dad rushed me to the ER. When we arrived and the EKG results came in, the staff absolutely flipped out and sprinted the crash cart into my room. That was the most terrified I've ever been. I should probably be dead. If you think something is going on with your heart, get it looked at immediately. Mine is only triggered by stimulants, so I thought it was normal to have a 200+ heart rate after drinking coffee. No, it's not normal. Ectopic focus in my left ventricle. No coffee or Red Bull for me. That sucks. I was initially told no caffeine when I had symptoms, but after being diagnosed, they told me that wasn't the problem. The cardiologist said I could do whatever I wanted except cocaine. I'm not sure if it's a medical condition per se, but my second and third toes are fused together on both feet. My brother has this as well, and my mom too, just a little bit. I grew up thinking everyone had connected toes until one spring in middle school when everyone was wearing sandals. I literally shouted out in class, "You guys don't have connected toes?" And everyone looked at me like I was insane. Everyone's toes are webbed in the womb, but the cells in between the toes die at some point and were born without them being webbed. Not really a medical condition, but last time I was at a dentist, turns out I have no canine teeth, so I pretty much would be screwed if I were a vampire. I had an extra canine between my upper two front teeth, had it taken out and got braces for about a year to pull them next to each other. You should have lent it to OP. For some time now, I would sometimes, like once every several months or so, yawn large enough that my jaw sort of gets stuck open. It always corrects itself within a few minutes, with a distinct feeling that the jaw was slipping back into place. Didn't think anything of it, just thought it was something that happens when you open your mouth that wide. Then it happened a few days ago while I was in the same room as my mother, a doctor. Turns out that no, this is not normal behavior for someone's jaw. It's something called temporomandibular joint dysfunction, or TMJ. Still doesn't seem like an incredibly pressing thing, but I'll certainly bring it up the next time I see my dentist. Your jaw slipping out isn't really enough to call it TMJ by itself. It's normally accompanied by clicking, crunching, jaw aches and pains, and headaches. It sucks. Gah, the clicking. It's almost constant when I talk, and I had a boyfriend in high school break up with me because it freaked him out that my jaw clicked whenever we made out. Precordial catch syndrome. Random stabbing, chest pains, and an inability to breathe for about 20 seconds, then just disappears. I thought it happened to everyone. Apparently the membrane around your heart gets caught in your lung. Then it has to detach itself. Totally harmless. I think I'm dying every time. I hate this. It's just like a little bubble that needs to pop. I think if I breathe deep enough it will pop, but I can't breathe that hard because it hurts so bad. Yes. You can only take these shallow little breaths, and I always start panicking that I'll never breathe properly again. And it hurts so much, like someone is piercing you in the heart with a long needle. I have OCD and did not get diagnosed until I was well into my adulthood. My understanding of OCD was based on pop culture, so I had no idea that that's what my intrusive thought and compulsions were. I am learning that things are abnormal all the time now. I relate to this. OCD is like having an abusive brain. Abusive brain? I have hyperhidrosis. I didn't realize how much I sweat was abnormal enough to be a medical condition. It was miserable growing up and having sweat literally drip from your hands while you tried to write and not understanding why. I scrolled down so far to find this because I have that too and I thought the same thing. Same. I also have it. With, in, on, my feet. My boyfriend finds it weird that I always wear socks. I have a Skotsky ring, a narrowing of the lower esophagus, which means I have to drink a lot of water with anything I eat to get it down. Especially dry foods like bread. Otherwise, food gets stuck in my esophagus and I end up in a lot of pain. Once when I was maybe 11 or 12, I watched a man eat an entire bagel without drinking anything, and I was shocked. You can get that dilated. I ended up in the ER thanks to some steak getting lodged in mine. They popped the steak into my stomach and dilated the ring so the food doesn't get stuck anymore. I still won't eat without having a drink to wash it down though. Force of habit. I understand the dilating usually doesn't last very long though. If I chew very thoroughly and drink lots of liquids, I can usually avoid any real emergencies, but I do usually have 5 to 6 hard swallows every meal. Maybe once every couple of weeks I'll take a gulp of water to push something down and it won't work, and then I start aspirating until I can get to the restroom and spit the water out. I just don't think it's serious enough yet for me to need to go to the doctor for it. I thought every woman had searing, stabbing pains in their pelvis all the time due to woman problems, and I was just being a little punk. No, I have endometriosis. My organs were fused together. Yeah, took me forever to figure this one out. The correlated intestinal problems and random stabs in the not lady parts didn't help making this clearer. Endo is annoying. Daytime idiopathic hypersomnia. Basically during the day I'm sleepy regardless of how much I sleep and they don't know why. I also fell asleep and entered REM sleep in 7 seconds during the daytime sleep study, which I'm told you aren't supposed to do. Are you also sleepy at night? Sometimes. I also have occasional insomnia, but when I did the sleep study, they did a nighttime one where I slept through fine, followed by the day one where I had to try and sleep 20 minutes out of every 2 hours for 10 hours. They told me most people don't sleep at all during the day study if they slept through the night study, or if they do, it's very little and they fall asleep during the last 20 minutes. I could barely stay awake between the times I wasn't supposed to sleep and then slept most of the 20 minutes. It was during one of those 20-minute designated sleep times I fell asleep and entered REM state for 7 seconds after they told me to try and sleep. Bipolar disorder. I figured everybody thought about killing themselves from time to time, and anytime anything went wrong. This impression was strengthened when going on an antidepressant helped, but didn't make it go away entirely. Things are different now, but I'm on a mood stabilizer. I started taking medication for bipolar disorder 9 months ago, and haven't wanted to die for like 7 months now. I'm just totally fine with being alive, and it's kind of amazing. Exploding head syndrome. For years now, sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I'll hear a sound similar to a car crash in my head. In the beginning, I convinced myself that I had just imagined hearing it, and it became normal when I stumbled across an article about it and realized that it actually was. It's only happened to me twice, but it was scary as frick. Insomnia and sleep deprivation. I always just thought people stay up late as they get older till around high school when friends would go to bed and be asleep by 10 p.m. Same here. I used to think that everyone would lay in bed for 2 to 3 hours before being able to get to sleep. I have ADHD and a speech impediment. During my schooling, I thought I was just an idiot when it came to learning and talking. Right before I graduated, I told my mom that I hate how stupid I am. Then she told me that I was diagnosed as a child and should have gotten treatment, and went into some kind of special ed class to help me out. She didn't want people to think I was sick, so she never went along with it. Thanks, Mom. Shame on your mother. How is sweeping something under the rug ever helpful? Especially when there's an actual way to help a situation. I think she just didn't want people to think less of me when they learned I was in special ed. Would have been nice knowing, though. I beat myself up for my condition without even knowing that it wasn't my fault. I wish she would have told the teachers at least. They were the meanest. I thought the bloating and urge to crap your pants was a normal trade-off for eating dairy, like how some peppers can be painfully spicy, until an ex of mine pointed out that I was probably lactose intolerant. The doctor confirmed it and told me to stay the hell away from cheese. I was 18. To be fair, I had mentioned it several times to my mom growing up, who is also lactose intolerant but still eats dairy and suffers through it, and she just assumed I knew what lactose intolerance was and brushed it off as something else. I was homeschooled though, so not sure where else she'd assume I'd learned that. I didn't find out I was lactose intolerant till the mid-20s, when I was posted to Hong Kong, where dairy is hardly eaten. Dairy just naturally dropped from my diet, and then I suddenly realized I had stopped having diarrhea every 2 days and felt the best I ever felt in my life. Until then, I felt like constant diarrhea, spots of blood on toilet paper, and chronic fatigue were just how everyone had it. That happened with my son. We were on vacation in Greece, and he basically just ate fresh fruit and grilled meat for all of his meals, and suddenly I wasn't having to change his overly wet poopy diapers 5 times a day. I had brought up that he had so many poops a day and that they were never solid so many times to his doctor, and he just kept telling me all kids are different. Then while in Greece, he magically had normal bowel movements, and I just cut it out after that and realized my poor son had been living his life with a dairy allergy and his tummy had always been hurting. Because of that trip, I found out what his actual normal was. We had to completely do away with everything with even traces of dairy. He kept having reactions randomly, and then so we also recently pulled him off of wheat and he hasn't had any more reactions. Dyspraxia. Thought I was just less coordinated than most people, but my nephew was diagnosed with it. At which point my mother told me, "Oh, you were diagnosed with that when you were a kid too." Would have been nice if someone had told me that there was a reason I was so clumsy. Hey, a fellow dyspraxic! Everyone always thinks I mean to say dyslexia when it comes up. Me too. There should be a dyspraxic-only sports club where we could suck at sports together and not be embarrassed by our clumsiness. There should be lots of plasters and ice packs there too, for the inevitable injuries. POTS. For most of my childhood, I just assumed that everyone temporarily lost their vision when they stood up. Oh crap, that isn't normal? It's normal if you stand up quickly or after lying down for a long period of time. It's not normal when you're, say, getting up from the dinner table. Scoliosis. Awkward curvature of the spine. While I was growing up, I would get yelled at a lot by my parents because I kept slouching over and tilting my head. They thought it was just teenager stuff and would always pull my shoulders back and tell me to walk like a man. Hey, another scoliosis bro! Let's all stand as straight as we can for our scoliosis brothers and sisters. Apparently having clots during your period isn't normal. I didn't know until I was signing up for a research study and I mentioned I've been on the pill since I was 21 because of bad periods. They asked questions like how heavy. I'd go through a pad in an hour and super absorbent tampons would leak in 2 hours, and if I had clots. The doctor on the study was outraged. My pediatrician growing up never looked into it. I just thought I was unlucky. Turns out my thyroid was out of whack. I also had abnormal weight gain, cold intolerance, etc. Yay! So much period-related stuff is passed off as normal. My pediatrician insisted that passing out from cramps was normal and I just needed to take more ibuprofen. But then I just had bad cramps and stomach bleeding. Casually mentioned it as a normal thing when I went to get an IUD at Planned Parenthood and they were like, "No?" I've never had a doctor take me seriously about cramps. It's so frustrating. It shouldn't hurt so much that I'm dizzy and vomiting. I've never passed out from it, but I've come very close. I finally described it another way when new symptoms arose. Doctors still didn't take it very seriously, but let me get further testing because I was so upset I was crying. Turns out I have problems with cysts and fibroids. We're still in the process of diagnosing the severity and treating it. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have something you'd like to share, please feel free to do so in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when our next video is up. For more videos like this one, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time!